cradle of Greenville, Falls Park on the Reedy was the first settled area in Greenville. Back in 1768, there was just a trading post, a sawmill, and a grist mill. Today, it's the centerpiece of Greenville's Riverwalk Park system, with one of the greatest downtown waterfalls in the nation. Hi everyone, I'm Shelley Benthal, inviting you now for another walking tour of downtown Greenville. Today we're going to take a closer look at art in public places in Greenville's historic West End. Let's go! Liberty Bridge spans the Reedy River and is the most unique focal point of Falls Park. At a cost of more than $4 million, the bridge is 355 feet long, has a curved radius of 214 feet, and two 90-foot tall masts weighing 26 tons each. That makes it easily the largest piece of art in public places that we'll see on any of our walking tours.
The Liberty Bridge itself is just a terrific piece of art. It's from a technical standpoint, it's an engineering marvel. It's one of the few pedestrian bridges of its kind in the United States. There's really nothing quite like it. It was designed to be something extraordinary. We raised the bar really high for Falls Park. We determined early on that if we're going to have a Falls Park, it's going to be special. We're not going to cut corners. We're going to do it world class, to last for the ages. And it was kind of a leap to say, okay, we're going to take down the old ugly Camperdown Bridge and put up another bridge in its place. But it'll be a different kind of bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge to connect the two sides, but also it itself will be a piece of art for people in Greenville to enjoy, and hence the Liberty Bridge. We had a great architect. Liberty Bridge is designed by Miguel Rosales from Boston. He's originally from Guatemala. It's an award-winning bridge. It's swept awards from Asia to Europe, North America and South America. Just all kinds of good awards for it. It's intended to be a piece of art unto itself. And one of the great things about the Liberty Bridge, it's both a joy to experience in the daytime, and it's a different experience at night with its very special illumination.
Liberty Bridge has received numerous awards and is definitely the showstopper of Falls Park. Just across Liberty Bridge is this red steel sculpture that's been the subject of much discussion. Some people think it's a dancer, some people think it's a runner. I don't know. But what we do know for sure is that it's called Untitled 2002 to 2003. Designed by Joel Shapiro, this imaginative piece is located at Weiss Pavilion. Mr. Shapiro's works can be found on display throughout the world, including art museums in Paris, France. was dedicated in 2008. Moving back over to the entrance of Falls Park stands a piece called Falls Lake Fall, 16 feet tall and 1,800 pounds. It's a bronze sculpture created by international artist Brian Hunt. The piece is said to be symbolic of the natural falls located a little deeper within the park, but its creator, Mr. Hunt, says it can truly represent whatever onlookers would like for it to be. Falls Lake Fall was dedicated in 2005. Just across the way from Falls Park sits one of Greenville's most distinguished former residents. He's been called one of the world's most influential 1,000 men in the past 1,000 years. His name is Dr. Charles Towns. Born right here in Greenville, South Carolina in 1915, Charles Towns attended Greenville Public Schools and then Furman University. He completed work for a Master of Arts degree in physics at Duke University in 1936, and then earned a PhD from California Institute of Technology in 1939. Towns was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1964 for his work developing maser and laser technology.
Dr. Charles Towns is a native of Greenville, grew up right downtown almost, and he went to Furman. He now lives in California. He invented the laser, or was part of the team that invented the laser, which has become probably the most important invention around. And I tried to capture him in his aha moment, because the story goes that he was sitting on a bench in Washington, D.C., thinking about this laser thing, and he knew that they were so close to it that he just couldn't quite get that last thing, and he was sitting there, and all of a sudden he thought, that's it. So he took an envelope out of his pocket, wrote down the formula for the laser. I got Dr. Towns to actually write the formula for the laser on a folded envelope, and then I carefully copied it off onto the envelope that's bronze that he now holds in his hand. Also, the fountain pen that is held in his right hand has a laser light in it, and I had to run a pipe through the base first that's on the ground, up through his leg, through his knee, into his hand, and out of the pen. So this was a little tricky engineering feat that we had to accomplish with that, and had a lot of help with that with some Clemson people, some physicists. That's another story that's sort of funny. At one time I was meeting with people about this sculpture, and I was sitting at the table with 5 physicists. And I, who know nothing about physics, was just in awe of this. I was scared to open my mouth. also the bench that Dr. Towns is sitting on, the end pieces of that are the actual bench pieces from Washington, D.C. They sent us these bench ends for us to use in the sculpture. The slats are made out of bronze, but the bench ends are the actual bench from Washington. Dr. Charles Towns has some family that still lives in Greenville, and they, along with other people, raised the money to put this sculpture out there in honor of Dr. Towns. In doing the sculptures of all of the sculptures that I have done, one of the things that's so interesting is designing the clothes. So when I was in high school, that was my desire, was to be a clothes designer. And as it turns out, I'm designing clothes to go on sculptures now. But the research going into the period of George Poinsett in the 1800s and of Dr. Towns in the 1950s, and Romeo and Juliet that I did at the Government School was, you know, that period. And then one I did for Anderson was in the early 1900s. So the research for clothes and trying to get those correct is quite a lot of fun for me to be involved in that. And it's very important to make sure that they're correct.
This sculpture by artist Zan Wells was unveiled in April of 2006 and graces the corner of Main Street and Camperdown Way. We are truly in the historic West End now. It's time to take a look at another often photographed public piece of art, a statue of Shoeless Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson began his baseball career playing for the old Brandon Mill right here in Greenville, South Carolina, before becoming one of the greatest hitters in the history of Major League Baseball. While playing for the Chicago White Sox, Joe was caught up in a scandal involving the 1919 World Series that ultimately ended his Major League career. But he remains one of the game's greatest players and a hometown hero to the residents of Greenville. Local sculptor Doug Young molded this life-size statue of Joe swinging his bat, Black Betsy.
I was traveling with a men's singing group in Texas, probably May 2000, 2001. And somebody asked me as we were traveling on this big bus out in Texas, what kind of thing do you like to do for a hobby? What kind of thing interests you? And I said, well, I like to do clay. I like to sculpt. And he said, well, like what kind of things? And I said, people. So in the newspaper, there was a picture of Shoeless Joe Jackson. And he said, can you sculpt that? I said, sure. So kind of on a dare, I started this sculpture, got it finished. He liked it, took it to a couple people and showed it around. And they said, you need a bronze done of it. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was in the mayor's office with this bronze sculpture, holding it, saying, I've done this sculpture of Shoeless Joe Jackson. I was told to bring it to you and let you see it. And they were very excited about it and said, would you be willing to do a life-size sculpture? I said, sure. Well, I've really never done a life-size sculpture before, a bronze. Now, I've done life-size sculptures, busts, and I've done complete sculptures, but never a life-size bronze before. So my big concern was where to do it. My garage was not tall enough, and so Arlene Markley and I, the mayor's assistant at the time, talked about what to do, and she came up with the idea of doing it in the lobby of City Hall. Well, that was kind of interesting. It has marble floors and huge ceiling and glass all around, and I liked the idea. I like people, and I thought this would be fun. People can see the whole process. They can watch things happen. And as we talked, we came up with the idea of roping off a section of the lobby of City Hall and letting people come by and knead clay and put clay on the sculpture. And when they did, they got a certificate that said, I felt the need to knead for Shoeless Joe Jackson. It was signed by the mayor and myself. And I worked on that sculpture. I had a full-time job at the time. And in the evenings, I'd unlock the door, lock it behind me, go inside, work in front of the windows. And I did that, it seems like a year, but the whole sculpture took a year from start to finish. from the time I did a small maquette, which is just a small scale model of the sculpture, until the final bronze was delivered to the West End. It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting. Met lots of people, met people who knew Shoeless Joe and told me exactly how he stood and how he turned that foot in and what his hands looked like. I had a model that I actually got clothes from someone from authentic costume from the time period, and had a model wear that, took pictures of him all the way around so I could flip the book and look how his hands were and how the folds were in the cloth. So it was quite a process. The statue dedication was really an exciting time. You know, it was the end of the whole process. And as hard as it was to let the sculpture go, it was pretty exciting when everybody around got to be there. We were expecting maybe 75 to 100 people, but the estimates were about 750 people came to the statue dedication. And there were all kinds of dignitaries, and that was really great. But it was really fun to see people who had come and put clay on the sculpture, and people who remembered Shoeless Joe Jackson, people who had been part of it and recognized him as a hometown hero. And I'm just really glad to have had a small part in making this a sculpture that will remind people of a little bit of the heritage we have here in Greenville. It's estimated that about 100,000 people a year see that sculpture. People come from all over looking for Shoeless Joe Jackson, for his graveside. The thing that's really nice is to have this one place that they can see a little bit about him, see what size he was, how he batted, learn a little bit by the plaque that's there. And it's a constant reminder about this local hometown hero who really did something. And I think it's something all of us can be proud of.
The thing I like about it is, again, it tells the story of Greenville as you walk down Main Street. And where else would you see, on one end of the street, you have Dr. Charles Towns, Nobel Prize winner in physics, a brilliant man. And just a block away, you have Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was illiterate, but a highly talented, special individual in his own way. They're just a block apart. They're both from Greenville. It tells a true, just amazing story, very diverse story.
The final stop on our tour today is this stainless steel piece of art titled Nexus of Light. Anchoring the corner of Main and Augusta, this work was a gift to the city of Greenville from the 2005 Artisphere Festival Board of Directors. Sculptor Dennis Heimbach welded the pieces together, then painted them with multiple coats of primer, paint, and sealer. Well, that's it for today. I'm Shelley Benthal, and I hope you'll join me again soon for another walking tour of downtown Greenville as we continue to take a closer look at Greenville's art in public places. Today, we're going to take a closer look at Greenville's art in public places in Greenville's Today, we're going to take a closer look at art in public places in Greenville's historic... Sorry. Moving back over to the entrance of Falls Park stands a piece called Falls Lake Fall. 16 feet tall, sorry. He is Mr. Charles Townsend. His name is Dr. Charles Townsend. His name is Dr. Charles Townsend.
Towns.
Oh no, that one was good!
Pat him on the head.